On a quiet afternoon in April 2001, Branson Perry walked out of his home in Skidmore, Missouri to put away a pair of jumper cables and was never seen again. The 20-year-old vanished in broad daylight, leaving behind his wallet, keys, and vehicle. Branson doesn't just leave and not come back. That's just not him, said his best friend Jenna Crawford. In a town already haunted by unsolved crimes and secrets, Branson's case became one of Skidmore's most enduring mysteries. His family searched for decades. Investigators chased leads from local meth houses to dark corners of the internet. But the truth, still out of reach. Someone in Skidmore knows what happened. The question is, will they ever speak? Welcome to Bad Things. Join us as we retrace Branson Perry's last known steps, examine the web of theories, and break down what most likely happened. Who was Branson Perry? Branson Kane Perry was born in 1981 and grew up in the tiny town of Skidmore, Missouri, population just over 300. He was known for his loyalty to family, his sense of humor, and his love of martial arts. He held a black belt and often worked out in the family yard. He was close with his mother, Becky Kleinow, and helped take care of his father, Bob Perry, who was in poor health. At 20 years old, Branson was at a crossroads in life. He wasn't in school, didn't have steady work, and occasionally used drugs recreationally. Still, he wasn't considered troubled, just young, restless, and trying to find direction. Those who knew him describe him as friendly, trusting, and not the kind of person to just disappear. He was a good kid, said family friend Monica Kaysen. He had a good heart. April 11th, 2001. A chore and a vanishing act. Branson Perry was at home at 304 West Oak Street in Skidmore, Missouri, getting the house ready for his dad's return from the hospital. That afternoon, around 3 p.m., he told his friend Jenna Crawford, who was helping clean, that he was stepping outside to put away some jumper cables in the shed. "I'll be right back," he said. Two local men were also on the property, working on Branson's father's car. Branson walked out the door and never came back. Jenna assumed he got sidetracked. Hours passed, then panic set in. His vehicle, wallet, keys, all still there, but Branson, who was known to be deeply loyal to family, was gone. 6 days later, on April 17th, Branson was officially reported missing. One strange detail stood out. The jumper cables he'd meant to put away weren't found in the shed at all. Until 2 weeks later, when they mysteriously reappeared, neatly placed just inside the shed door. "I really think somebody has the answers. Somebody knows what happened to Branson," his mother, Becky Kleinow, told reporters. Days before, a disturbing incident. Only days earlier, on April 7th, Branson had gone to the home of his neighbor, Jason Bierman. According to Branson's later account to his father, he was given a drink or drug without his consent and became disoriented. Under the influence, Branson allegedly danced around the house nude and was sexually assaulted. Branson was shaken. Bob Perry, his father, was furious, saying Bierman had drugged and then used his son. This was 4 days before Branson disappeared. Investigators have never confirmed a link, but many wondered if Branson had planned to confront his abuser or report the assault. Meanwhile, on the day he vanished, Jenna admitted she and Branson had used meth and marijuana together. Branson wasn't a heavy user, but occasionally dabbled. This raised the possibility that Branson left his house that afternoon to meet someone for drugs or to party. A possible sighting and a suspicious fire. A tip soon surfaced. Branson had been seen later that day at a known party house about 6 miles away, near Quitman, Missouri. It was a run-down rural home with a reputation for drug use, especially among local youth. Then, a chilling twist. Less than a week after Branson went missing, that house burned to the ground. At the time, police hadn't even begun searching for Branson, so they never got the chance to examine the property. Many believed the fire was no coincidence. "Something stinks in Skidmore," one observer said. Police believed Branson had likely been lured away by someone he knew and met with foul play. But without a body or hard evidence, the case stalled. 2003 to 2004, the Jack Wayne Rogers revelation. In 2003, the FBI arrested 58-year-old church volunteer Jack Wayne Rogers during a child pornography investigation. On his computer, agents found disturbing message board posts describing the rape, torture, and murder of a blonde hitchhiker. A post that eerily matched details of Branson's disappearance. Rogers claimed the killing happened in Skidmore. He said authorities would never find the body. Investigators found a leather necklace with a turtle claw in his car, something Bob Perry identified as belonging to his son. Rogers became the prime suspect, but he denied everything, saying the posts were fantasy, and no physical evidence tied him directly to Branson. From what the police say, Rogers is the prime suspect, said Becky Kleinow, but all I can do is pray that my son is still alive. In 2004, Rogers was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison on pornography and obscenity charges, but never charged with harming Branson. Over time, even Branson's family came to believe Rogers had fabricated the story. 2005 to 2011. Cold years and new tragedies. With no new leads, Branson's case went cold, but his family never stopped looking. In 2006, true crime author Diane Fanning included Branson's case in her book, bringing new attention. National shows like America's Most Wanted covered it. In 2004, another tragedy struck. Branson's cousin Bobby Joe Stinnett was murdered in Skidmore in a notorious womb theft case, overshadowing Branson's disappearance in the national press. In 2009, a breakthrough seemed near. Two individuals gave the same tip, that Branson's body had once been buried on a rural property near Quitman. Investigators dug. They found signs the ground had been disturbed, but no remains. They moved the remains to a different location before law enforcement arrived, one report said. In 2011, Branson's mother, Becky Kleinow, passed away from cancer without ever learning what happened to her son. In her obituary, Branson was listed as having preceded her in death. We searched every oil well, every outside toilet. We searched everywhere possible, said Joanne Stinnett, Branson's grandmother. 2022 to 2024, a renewed focus. In August 2022, Sheriff Randy Strong made a public statement. Authorities had a suspect in Branson's case. They believed foul play was involved and that Branson's disappearance was drug-related. We just need more evidence, Strong said. It all comes down to recovering Branson's body. Then in May 2024, authorities launched a new search near Quitman, this time at a well on private property. With help from the FBI, the area was excavated and drained. But again, no remains were recovered. No new evidence was uncovered, confirmed Captain Austin Hahn. But the case is very much active. By 2025, Branson Perry had been missing for 24 years. His parents are gone, but the community is still pushing for closure. We just want to bring him home, said family friend Monica Kaysen. Theory number 1. Abducted by an internet predator, Jack Wayne Rogers. The most sensational early theory was that Branson fell victim to a violent predator, specifically Jack Wayne Rogers, a 58-year-old church lay minister from Fulton, Missouri. Rogers was arrested in 2003 on child pornography charges. When the FBI searched his computer, they found graphic online posts describing the rape, mutilation, and murder of a blonde hitchhiker. The timeline, the victim's description, and even references to Skidmore matched Branson Perry's disappearance. Rogers wrote that he'd abducted a blonde boy in Skidmore and that authorities would never find the body. In his vehicle, police also found a turtle claw necklace, something Bob Perry said belonged to his son. Investigators were alarmed. Could Rogers, who traveled for church events and had a dark online presence, have driven to Skidmore, abducted Branson, and taken him elsewhere to commit the crime. Supporters of this theory think it's possible Branson met Rogers online or was hitchhiking and encountered him by chance. "Why didn't the car mechanics see him?" asked one commenter on Web Sleuths, referring to the two men who were supposedly working on Branson's father's car at the time he disappeared. Something stinks. But serious doubts remain. Branson left behind everything: wallet, keys, vehicle, and never indicated he was planning to meet someone. His best friend Jenna Crawford said flatly, "Branson wouldn't just up and run off with someone." Rogers later claimed his online posts were fictional. He had no known connection to Branson, no forensic evidence linked him to the scene, and even his possession of the necklace wasn't definitive. Branson was known to wear similar handmade items. Plus, Rogers was nearly 60, in poor physical shape, and would have struggled to overpower a martial arts-trained 20-year-old man. By 2007, even Becky Kleinow no longer believed Rogers was involved. Law enforcement eventually shifted focus back to Skidmore. "It just doesn't make any sense," said a family friend. "Something happened in Skidmore." Theory number 2. Drug overdose and cover-up at the party house. This theory focuses not on a stranger, but on people Branson knew. According to tips and witness reports, Branson was seen the day he vanished at a notorious party house near Quitman, about 6 miles from his home. It was a known drug spot: meth, pills, GHB. Branson had already used meth earlier that day, and it's believed he went to the house with a friend or local contact to keep partying. At some point, he may have overdosed or suffered a medical emergency. Rather than call 911, those present panicked. Fearing arrest, they hid Branson's body. "I think someone gave him something, and it went wrong," said his aunt, Gail McMurray. Within days, the house burned to the ground, before police even knew Branson was missing. The timing raised immediate suspicions. "All signs pointed back to that house," said one local reporter. In 2009, a tip led police to dig at a rural spot near Quitman. 2 unrelated witnesses pointed to the same site, saying Branson's body had been buried there. Investigators found disturbed ground, but no remains. The belief is that Branson's body was initially hidden there, then secretly moved. Later searches, including a 2024 FBI-led excavation of a well nearby, found no remains but confirmed more disturbed earth. This theory also fits with what law enforcement now believe. In 2022, Sheriff Randy Strong said they had a suspect and that the case was drug-related. He emphasized the only missing piece was Branson's body. The cover-up theory also explains the reappearance of the jumper cables, possibly placed by someone to stage the scene, and the long silence in Skidmore. "We just want to bring him home and bring a resolution to this nightmare," said Monica Kaysen, who has worked on Branson's case for years. Theory number 3. Deliberate harm by someone he knew. This theory overlaps with theory number 2 geographically, but assumes intent. Instead of an overdose, it suggests someone close to Branson wanted him dead. A. The Bierman retaliation theory. Days before disappearing, Branson accused his neighbor Jason Bierman of drugging and assaulting him. He told his father, who was enraged. Did Branson confront Bierman on April 11th? Some believe Bierman feared exposure and silenced him. Possibly he lured Branson outside for a private talk or to deliver a fatal dose. While speculative, the motive is clear: avoiding consequences. But Bierman was never charged, and no confirmed link has been made between him and that day. B. The mechanics theory. 2 men were on the Perry property fixing a car when Branson disappeared. They claimed they saw nothing, but some find that unlikely. Could an argument or confrontation have turned deadly? Might they have transported his body in their truck? One of the men died in 2021. The other has never been publicly named. C. Other enemies or conflicts. Rumors suggested Branson owed money or may have angered someone in Skidmore. While no concrete evidence backs this, it's possible that jealousy, debt, or another grudge led to foul play. If so, the party house could have been the setting, and the fire the cover-up. This theory adds motive where Theory 2 lacks it. If someone intentionally harmed Branson, fear of legal fallout would still explain the body being hidden and the silence that followed. Still, most of these ideas remain speculative, and many of the same people and places show up again, especially the house near Quitman. Theory 4. Voluntary disappearance or suicide. Could Branson have walked away from it all? Some point to his emotional state, unemployed, recently assaulted, using drugs, and suggest he may have chosen to leave town or end his life. A few unverified sightings surfaced over the years, and some speculated Branson may have been struggling with his identity. But those who knew him reject the idea. "Branson wouldn't put us through that pain. Not my son," Becky Kleinow said. "He left behind his wallet, keys, and car. He was making plans for his dad's return. No note was found. Law enforcement never viewed this as a runaway case." Foul play is suspected, authorities said early on. The later appearance of the jumper cables, the house fire, and the silence from potential witnesses all suggest third-party involvement, not a voluntary vanishing. After reviewing every theory, testimony, and physical clue, one explanation stands out as requiring the fewest assumptions while accounting for all known facts. Branson Perry most likely died at a party house near Quitman, Missouri on April 11, 2001, as the result of a drug-related incident, and those present concealed his death. The people involved were likely locals, individuals Branson knew and trusted enough to leave his home with that afternoon. Sheriff Randy Strong stated in 2022 that a specific suspect had been identified and that investigators only needed Branson's body to make an arrest. That strongly implies the suspect is known to law enforcement and may have even confessed, but their claims can't be confirmed without a body. This theory is further supported by tips received over the years, including 2 independent reports in 2009 pointing to the already mentioned burial site near the Quitman property. That more than one person had knowledge of the same potential grave site suggests a group effort, not just in what happened to Branson, but in keeping it hidden. Those likely involved include whoever invited Branson to the house, the person residing there, and others who helped cover up the incident. The most plausible cause of death is an accidental overdose or drug-induced medical emergency. Branson had a known heart arrhythmia and had already used meth that day. At the party house, he may have taken more, or something else entirely. Methamphetamine, especially when combined with other substances, can trigger fatal cardiac events or seizures. Sedatives like GHB can quietly suppress breathing. There's no evidence of violence, no signs of a struggle, and no screams reported. A sudden overdose fits the timeline and available evidence. If his death was accidental, the motive for the cover-up becomes clear: fear of legal consequences. The people at the house were likely using or distributing drugs. Calling 911 could mean arrests. So they made a series of decisions rooted in self-preservation. That fear would explain the disappearance of Branson's body, the suspicious fire that later destroyed the Quitman property, and the deliberate reappearance of the jumper cables in the shed. A staged detail designed to suggest Branson vanished while doing something routine. The setting allowed for everything to unfold unnoticed. The party house was secluded. Branson's father was in the hospital, and his mother lived out of town. He wasn't expected anywhere. When he disappeared, no one realized it for nearly a week, giving the people at the house time to act. They likely buried Branson on the property, placed the jumper cables back at his home to create a false timeline, and then destroyed evidence, including by setting fire to the house. When police returned in 2009 to dig at the site mentioned in tips, the ground showed signs of prior disturbance, but no body was found. That strongly suggests his remains had been relocated some time after the original burial. What happened to Branson Perry was likely a preventable tragedy that spiraled into a long-running nightmare. He did not run away. He was not abducted by a stranger from another state. The simplest and most supported explanation is that he died among people he knew, and those people chose to protect themselves instead of doing the right thing. As one investigator put it, it's a nightmare his family has endured year after year. That nightmare could end if just one person finds the courage to come forward, or if one final search turns up what has eluded investigators for over 2 decades. Until then, this is what most likely happened.